Well, I wish I could say we planned it out this way, but, we launched the Will Cain Show. It airs at 9 p.m. here on KCMO Talk Radio every single weeknight, following Bill O'Reilly, who was on at 8. And then, within a few days of the new year, when that show launches here on KCMO, well, suddenly he's now the 4 p.m. Eastern time host, of course, on Fox News Channel. So timing worked out great. Here he is, Will Cain, on KCMO Talk Radio. Will, congratulations. Thanks for joining us in Kansas City. And how's the show going so far?
Thank you so much, man. I can't say it was a complete surprise to me, meaning that day or that week, but I couldn't be more grateful and surprised that this has happened at this point in my career. I'm thrilled, and I'm thrilled that I get to do this show from, the middle of America. I hope representing voices like those in Kansas City. How's it going so far? Well, I just got the news, Pete. Day one, 3.5 million people watched the Will Cain Show.
Man, that is big. That's like a prime time number right there, Will. That's like 25 times what CNN's doing any day part. That's well done.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, man. And here's the thing about it. It's day one. And look, you've been a part of broadcasting for a long time. I've been involved in it in various iterations. This is the first time on television I've truly got to put my stamp on an hour. And I will tell you, it's going to be a process and it's going to be an evolution. So what we saw on day one is only going to evolve. I can promise the audience that it's going to get better every day, every week, every month, as I continue to find the format, the voice that works for me. And my promise is to the audience to live out loud. I'm being authentic with you. I'm being real. And we'll find out what works. We'll find out what doesn't. We'll find out where I'm right. We'll find out where I'm wrong on the Will Cain Show.
I heard you say in one of your interviews the other day that, it was important to you to make sure you could do that show from Texas, where, of course, you're located. And you had been traveling for all the Fox stuff for, the better part of several years now. You're gone half the week. I didn't realize that was the case for you. How tough of a sell was it to say, hey, this show should be based here? Because as much as Fox does represent many of the values of those of us here in the heartland, they still are largely, a New York, D.C. operation. So how did you sell that to the higher-ups?
Well, the truth is I didn't sell it. They presented the idea to me, which is like the most wonderful Christmas present one could ever receive. Because as you point out, I've been, at least for 9 years, been spending part of my week away from home. When I was at ESPN, I then lived in New York City and had to commute out to Bristol, Connecticut. Now that I've been at Fox, we've moved back home to Texas, and I've been commuting back up to New York City. And they liked the idea. I think they knew how dedicated I was to living the rest of my life in Texas. But it wasn't a negotiation. It wasn't a back and forth. They came to me and said, and we want you to do it from Texas.
Wow, that's awesome. That's the best of both worlds right there. So, Will, you made the transition, for people that don't know, from ESPN, of course. You spent years there. Then you joined Fox News. As someone who used to do sports radio, I've often said I think sports media is further left than news media is. What was your perception of sports media versus news media, and how you compare the political contrasts as you see it from a very high level?
Well, first, what I would say is your characterization of sports media being further than news media to the left, I don't think is wrong, but I don't think that's what their cardinal sin is, or why people get most upset about it when it's buried into sports. If you'll notice, Pete, I don't think people get that mad at, for example, MSNBC. They point and they laugh at the insanity, but they're most upset with, for example, CNN. And the reason for that is because you cannot start your relationship with a lie. And the lie that it's not just CNN, it's also a sin committed by CBS and ABC and NBC, is that we are fair arbiters of the truth. We are objective, and we're telling you, like Walter Cronkite used to say, that's the way it was. When we can watch and see, no, you are biased, you have an opinion, and in fact, in today's day and age, it's pretty clear that you have an agenda. You're pushing a form of propaganda. That really makes people upset, that you begin the relationship with a lie. At least MSNBC is honest about who they are. So sports is somewhat similar. Here we are, we're watching sports. We're here to watch an analysis of Dak Prescott and whether or not he's a top 5 or top 10 quarterback. And next thing you know, we're spilling over into all this stuff about whatever it is, black quarterbacks and racial justice, or whatever it may be, the national anthem or the American flag. And that upsets people because you've begun our relationship with a lie. I do think most people in sports media kind of want to be political pundits, and they're almost all on the left. I mean, I know a lot of them, and I'm friends with a lot of them, and I was around that environment. I was immersed in it for 5 years. For whatever reason, the people that go into sports media are often on the left, and those that are not on the left remain quiet because for years it's been a terrifying proposition, to be honest.
So with that, then, what was the moment for you when you said, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to leave sports media and go over to news political commentary?
2020. I was in news and political commentary before I went to sports media. I was a conservative voice at CNN, and I was on The Blaze. And then I went over to sports, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it, Pete. I still do. I'm a huge sports fan. I love talking about sports and do on my Friday episodes of the Will Cain Show podcast. But I just felt like 2020 was the culmination of insanity in every way, from COVID to race to everything else. And I just had the opportunity, thankfully, with some career options at that point between ESPN and Fox. And I just decided this is too important. This is too big of a moment. I want to be in it directly. I don't want to talk about it in the culture segments on First Take. I want to address all these issues head on. And so I moved to Fox.
Mm-hmm. Now, what about, when you look back on your career, is there a defining moment for you that you say, what, this was the break, this is what led to the break? What do you tell young people when they say, hey, how do I become the next Will Cain?
Well, I'll tell you one story, and I don't know that it's the one moment, but I think this story is a good illustration. So I had begun doing TV for free in the early 2010s or so. And I was going on Fox. I went on Fox and Friends Weekend, which one day later I would end up hosting. I would go on Hannity's Great American Panel. And I did a lot of work for free, Pete, a lot. And I'm sure that's part of your story as well. It just is. You have to be able to take less money or no money to get to where you want in the long term. But what I did is then I had a set of clips. And I sent an email to the president of CNN one night. I guessed at his email address because everybody's email address is kind of formulaic. It was like first name dot last name at Turner, I think it was. I sent him an email. I sent him the clips, and it was really short. You need a voice like me at CNN. Now, I think this was a different CNN than it is now. It was still biased. It was still to the left. But I was like, you're trying to be somewhat balanced. You need someone like me. He responded within 15 minutes and said, you're right, come in and see me. So my point is I've never been afraid of no. No is just putting me back where I started. It's not like I'm worse off. I've never been afraid of no, and I've only ever sought yeses from people with the power to say yes. Most people don't really have the power to say yes. So you got to go high enough where there's power for it. So that's one. And the second part of the story is what it meant is I got in on a pilot, somewhat of an audition for a new show they were launching called In the Arena with Elliot Spitzer. And at that time it was Kathleen Parker. Actually, it was called Parker Spitzer to start. And I sat down because that email just got me an at-bat. It got me to the plate, right? And then once I had my at-bat, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I crushed that pilot. I crushed that audition. I went in. I went 100%. I wasn't intimidated. And at the end of that, they said, hey, we need to talk to you. We're gonna make you part of this. And so from there, I was off and running.
That is awesome. Will Cain, of course, he is on KCMO 9 p.m. weeknights here on 95.7 FM. Of course, you also can now see him 3 o'clock Central Time with the Will Cain Show. Will, I know, you also lost your father at a young age. What do you think he'd be saying right now?
Oh, man, what is this, Roy Firestone? You're going to get me emotional here. You remember Roy Firestone? Everybody does. It's from, it's funny you say that, Pete. My wife says that to me sometimes. My mom does as well. I think he would be, I hope he would be, I do think he would be incredibly proud. My dad instilled me with a ton of unearned confidence throughout my life, which I'm so thankful that he did so because I walked into rooms and did things that I had no objective right to be doing. And if it's manifested in this way, I would hope. I think that he is somewhere really proud.
That's awesome. Well, we're going to be watching. We'll be listening. And what do you have coming up the rest of the week that Kansas City listeners are going to appreciate?
Listen, we had yesterday, by the way, we had my old friend from ESPN on. We had Stephen A. Smith. We had a good 6-7 minute debate on DEI conversation /debate. We're going to continue in that spirit, man. I expect, maybe not today, but in the coming days, Charles Barkley will join us on the Will Cain Show. And we're going to continue to have newsmakers and go deeper, a little deeper, I think, than time-wise even, than is traditionally allowed on television. I'm going to give you the news. I'm going to give you my opinion. I'm going to leave it to you to decide what you think is true.
And tell me who decided on the microphone, because as a radio guy, I love seeing that microphone on the show, man.
The controversial microphone. People have nicknamed it Big Mike. People have real mixed opinions on it. Here's the thing about the microphone. The other thing about this show is it's going to grow in aesthetics. We are building a studio in Texas. Here's what I love. They told me, Will, go be yourself. Myself will be a part of that studio at some point. I'm going to have articulating mics. I'm going to move around. I'm not going to be locked down in the shop once I have a studio built. So that's going to be a part of it. So it might as well be part of the aesthetic today.
Got it. I didn't know if it was like, an homage to Larry King or what you were going for, but, the radio guy in me loves it. So we'll keep up the great work. We're thrilled for you in Kansas City. We're glad you're staying in the heartland, and we'd love to talk to you again soon.
Thanks so much, Pete.
You bet. That is Will Cain. Will Cain, his new show, 4 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Central, on the Fox News Channel. Big time stuff. Very excited for him. That's my first chance having a talk to the guy, and very glad he was happy to come on KCMO. You can hear him at 9 p.m. right here on 95.7 FM after the Bill O'Reilly Show, the No Spin News.